Want to know the easiest way to make pumpkin pie and make your family happy? Well, today this video is for you because I'm going to teach you a recipe that's been in my family for at least 50 years. Here's the recipe. Pumpkin pie mix from the can. And the recipe is written right on the back of the can. Can I just tell you how delicious this is? Think about it. These companies have paid thousands of dollars to professional chefs and home economists to come up with a tried and true recipe that always works. So stick with what works. Don't overcomplicate your Thanksgiving or Christmas dessert. All right, let's get started. First thing you want to do is crack 2 eggs. Put the eggs in your mixing bowl. And I always do the eggs first because that way if I drop a piece of shell in there, it's easy to fish out and not all the other wet ingredients have combined in with that eggshell. Next, here's another secret. Evaporated milk. It doesn't matter what brand, just don't do fat-free or low fat. Come on y'all, it's the holidays. So get real evaporated milk. It's in the baking aisle with all the sugar and everything. Make sure you don't get condensed milk. Condensed milk is that real thick syrupy stuff that people make fudge with. No. This is just evaporated milk. And what I've done is I've poured 2/3 cup into my measuring cup. And you want to combine that with the eggs. All right, now we're ready to combine these wet ingredients. Something else I love about using the pre-mixed pumpkin pie mix in the can is that the spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves are already in this mix. And because it's been airtight in this can, those spices are still really fresh. So, you might be that person or you might know someone that's had the same cinnamon and nutmeg in their pantry for like 6 years. Do not use that in your baking. You really need fresh spices. So avoid the rest altogether and use the mix in the can. All right, now that I have combined the 2/3 cup of evaporated milk and 2 eggs, now it's time for the magic to happen. All I'm gonna do is pour the pumpkin pie mix into the bowl. Set your mixer again to low so it doesn't splash all over the place. All right, now that our 3 wet ingredients are combined, now it's time for Hope's homemade pie crust. Wait till you see the secret. Here is my homemade pie crust. It doesn't matter what brand. This one just happened to be on sale, so I picked it up. But there are 2 pie crusts in the box. And what you want to do is take it out for a few minutes and let it kind of come up to almost room temperature so that this crust is easier to work with. All right, we're just going to take it out of the package and then we're going to unroll this pie crust. Now, Grandma may have made a homemade pie crust, and that's fine. If that's what you want to do with cubed butter and flour, you go for it. But listen, I am busy at the holidays and all the time, so if I can find a shortcut that still tastes good, I'm going for that. Okay, now that I have put my pie crust in the pie plate, it's time to pour the wet ingredients into the pie shell. All right, here we go. Let's pour the ingredients into the pie shell. Okay, if you want to kind of make it look homemade, you could just fold over the crust here that's a little high. Do that with your fingers. And then you can take a fork like Grandma did and just press a little fork pattern into your crust. That just makes it pretty and gives it a little finished look. You guys can tell that I am not trying to be really, OCD and fancy about this. just make the pie. All right, another secret that I have is one of these pie crust protective shields. You don't have to have this, so don't go out to the store if you only make one pie a year. You can take aluminum foil and form it to do the same thing. What this does is it sets here on top of the pie plate, and it just keeps the heat. It keeps too much heat off of that crust so the crust doesn't get burned while the pie is cooking. All right, so today I'm just gonna use my toaster oven to bake this pie because the toaster oven fits, or this pie fits in the toaster oven, and it's very quick and energy efficient to heat up. So what this recipe calls for is a high temperature for the first 15 minutes. So you're gonna preheat your toaster oven to 425. Once it's ready, put the pie in for 15 minutes. Then, when the timer goes off, reduce the heat to 350 and bake the pie for another 50 to 60 minutes. Okay, now we have finished the baking at 350 for the final 50 to 60 minutes. So let's take a look and see if it's done. What we're looking for is when you shake the pie plate a little bit, it can have just a little bit of movement like stiff jello, but if it's really liquidy and moving around, it's not done. Put it back in for 5 minutes at a time. Let's take a look. Oh yes, just a little bit of a shake. This is finished cooking. So what you want to do is let it cool on your countertop for at least 30 minutes. I mean, nobody really likes hot pumpkin pie unless you're really desperate for a slice of pumpkin pie. But let it cool, and once it's cooled all the way to room temperature, go ahead and store it in the refrigerator until you're done with it, because it has those eggs and milk in it, so you don't want it to just sit out on the counter overnight. I hope you love it. It looks really good. So while this pie is cooling, we're gonna make some homemade, and this time I mean it, it is homemade whipped cream for our kind of homemade pumpkin pie. So let me show you how to do that now. One more trick to the homemade pumpkin pie. Here's a way that you can make it finished like something very homemade. We're gonna make homemade whipped cream. Don't put Ready Whip or Cool Whip on your pumpkin pie. Let me show you how to wow your guests with homemade whipped cream. Go to the grocery store, and in the coffee cream section where the half and half is, you're gonna find heavy whipping cream. This is a 16-ounce container. I'm gonna put about half of it into this device. This is called a Ninja, but if you have a blender that works, or you could put it on a real high-speed mixer. All right, so that's about half of the whipping cream. And then you want to take some powdered sugar. Any brand is fine. It's also called confectioner's sugar. So if you've never bought this at the store, look for either powdered or confectioner's sugar. And I've got a tablespoon here. I'm just going to put a heaping tablespoon in with this whipping cream. Okay, now what we want to do is blend it together at a very high speed, and that cream will become fluffy, you know, kind of like the Cool Whip consistency. That's what we're looking for. Okay, now I'm gonna check it and see if it's fluffy yet. It's a little bit liquidy. I might run it just a little bit more, but look, it's almost to the consistency that I'm looking for. Oh yes, this looks a lot better. This is what we're looking for. This is the creamy, fluffy consistency that you want. So you put that pretty dollop of real homemade whipped cream on your homemade pumpkin pie. I'm telling you, this recipe is dear to my heart, been in my family for more than 50 years. I hope you love it as much as we do. Wishing you a wonderful holiday season and lots of fun in the kitchen. I'm Hope George, your recipe realtor and your best hope in real estate.